My name is Devin, and even though this happened 2 years ago, it still feels fresh, like something carved into the back of my mind, refusing to fade. At the time, I was 24 and renting one half of an old duplex in Queens, New York. The building looked like it had survived a century of winters, cracks running down the siding like scars. It was cheap, and the landlord seemed relieved to have someone move in quickly, which should have been my first warning. The duplex was split straight down the center. I lived on the left side, and a man, someone I never saw, not even once, occupied the right. According to the landlord, he kept to himself and worked nights. That was all the information he offered, and I didn't push for more. Renting in New York means taking what you can get, and this place, old as it was, felt like a small victory. Inside, the house had narrow hallways and creaky wooden floors that complained with every step. The bedroom was upstairs, tucked into a corner with a window that overlooked the street. The wall beside my bed was shared with the neighbor's bedroom. The walls were thin enough that if I pressed my ear against them, I could hear soft movement on the other side. Nothing distinct, just gentle noises. But in New York, thin walls are almost a given, so I didn't think much of it. For the first week, everything was normal, boringly normal. I unpacked, settled into a routine, and tried to adjust to living alone for the first time. I even convinced myself the quietness of the place was peaceful. But that feeling didn't last. It started one night while I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone. The house was still, the street outside unusually quiet, and then I heard it. A voice coming from the wall behind me. It was definitely a man, but the voice sounded wrong. It was high-pitched, almost cartoonish, like someone deliberately speaking in a childish tone. The words were muffled, but it was unmistakably speech. At first, I assumed he was on a call. People talk in weird tones sometimes. I muted my video and listened for a minute, but the voice stopped. I shrugged it off and went back to scrolling, telling myself not to be paranoid. A few nights later, it happened again, but this time louder, closer. It no longer sounded like a phone call. It sounded like he was sitting against the other side of the wall, talking directly into it. And he wasn't talking to someone else. He was talking to himself, rambling, laughing softly, whispering something I couldn't understand. It made my skin crawl, but I tried to push it from my mind. Living alone for the first time was already making everything feel scarier than it probably was. But deep down, I knew something was off. Then the knocking began. It was around 2 a.m. I was half asleep when I heard 2 taps on the wall, slow, deliberate, directly beside my head. My eyes snapped open. I held my breath and listened. For a moment, everything was silent. Then 2 more taps, perfectly spaced. I sat up in bed, heart hammering. I wanted to believe I imagined it, but the sound had been too clear, too intentional. I stared at the wall for what felt like hours. The next time it happened, I was fully awake. 2 taps, a pause, 2 more taps. It wasn't random, it wasn't accidental, it was a pattern. I considered knocking back, but something deep inside me whispered not to. The idea of encouraging whatever was on the other side terrified me. For the next week, the knocking returned every few nights. Sometimes it was faint, like fingertips brushing the wall. Other times it was harder, like knuckles tapping just inches away. It always happened late at night, around the same time, when the house felt the quietest. I began sleeping with a loud fan on and earbuds in, But the knowledge that someone, a stranger, was only a wall away kept me on edge. Every creak in the house made me tense. Every shadow felt like it was watching me. Then came the night things escalated. I was lying on my side, facing the wall. The house was silent, except for the hum of my fan. I wasn't asleep yet, just drifting. Then I heard 3 slow knocks. Knock, knock, knock. They sounded so close it felt like they were coming from inside the wall itself. I froze, eyes wide. Then, in that same unnatural, childish voice from just inches beyond the wall, I heard, "What are you doing in there?" My heart stopped. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just sat there, trembling uncontrollably, staring at the wall as if it might open. That wasn't random noise. That wasn't coincidence. That voice was directed at me. He knew I was awake. He knew I was listening. Panicking, I grabbed my phone and called my boyfriend. I whispered that someone was talking to me through the wall. He heard the terror in my voice and drove over immediately. He stayed the night, and nothing else happened. No knocking, no voice, nothing at all, which somehow made it even worse, like whatever it was knew he wasn't alone. I spent the next few days trying to convince myself it had some logical explanation, exhaustion, stress, something, but I couldn't shake the dread curling in my stomach. Then the worst night happened. I was asleep, deep asleep, when I suddenly jolted awake, not groggy, not confused, but instantly alert, like something had snapped me into consciousness. Before I could even sit up, the knocking started again, but this time it wasn't slow or spaced. It was rapid, frantic tapping right beside my head. Tap, 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 tap. I shot upright and yelled, "Leave me alone!" I didn't expect a response, but I got one, a voice, clear, deep, and absolutely not the childish voice, spoke inside my room. "Go to sleep." It was behind me, not behind the wall, behind me, in the room. I felt the air leave my lungs. My mind couldn't even process it. The voice was so close that I swear I felt breath on my neck. I didn't look. I didn't think. I launched out of bed, screaming at the top of my lungs. I barreled down the stairs so fast I nearly fell, threw open the front door, and ran barefoot into the street, screaming for help, like my life depended on it. A man down the block came outside, startled, and let me call the police from his phone. When the officers arrived, they found my front door wide open. They searched the entire duplex, every room, every closet, even the attic and crawl space. No signs of forced entry, nothing disturbed, no one inside. They knocked on the neighbor's door, but he didn't answer. His car was still in the driveway, but it looked like no one was home. I refused to step foot back inside alone. Within days, I moved out completely. I packed while a friend stayed with me and didn't spend a single night there again. A couple of weeks later, the landlord told me the neighbor eventually moved out too. No notice, no explanation. He just vanished. To this day, I don't know what happened in that house. I don't know if my neighbor somehow had a key, or if I imagined everything, or if someone else, someone who wasn't supposed to be there, was living inside the walls. But the voice, the second voice, the deep one behind me, I know what I heard. It was real, and it was way, way too close.